This is the Signal 51 Chronicles, Murder in Rivercrest, the Koslow Case. I'm John Henry. I'm joined here by my compadre, Jake White. And welcome back, at long last, to the Signal 51 Chronicles. In the parlance of the day, it has been a minute, Jake White.
It's been a minute for sure.
It seems like every week over the last 2 years, year and a half, whatever it was, somebody would ask us, when is the damn podcast coming back?
And what happened?
And what happened to it? Yeah.
A little hiatus.
We have all these answers to crime and crime itself and the human condition, but we couldn't answer that question.
No, we were.
Well, we're back. Welcome back. And this time we're on the platform, the Sunset Lounge DFW platform.
Yep, excited.
You'll find the famed Mike Reiner there. The legendary Norm Hitchkiss is there. I was listening to Norm Hitchkiss when I was 12 years old. And that was not just yesterday.
More details?
It was over like 30 years ago. Or 40 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's probably closer to right there.
Mac Engel, sports columnist extraordinaire, has a show there. So for those of you who have been with us from the beginning, you know what the term Signal 50 signifies.
Signal 51.
Signal 51. I used to work for a thing that did Signal 50. Signal 51 is police code for investigation, and that's what we do here. We dig into stories, real cases, real people, and some crazy twists that are better than fiction. Almost all of these will be curated in the DFW area. A lot of them are going to be in Fort Worth, and we'll tell you why that is. Some others will be from around the state. Some will actually be lower 48. But like true crime itself, who knows where we'll turn. So a lot of these are going to emanate from Fort Worth, Texas, because Jake here is a retired police sergeant in Fort Worth, Texas. I am a not retired editor and writer, still hard at it. I'm the editor of Fort Worth Inc., which is a business lifestyle magazine here. At our office at Panther City Media, we have 2 titles under that umbrella. One is Inc. and one is Fort Worth Magazine. And that's a monthly lifestyle magazine. City Magazine is what it is, and I work for it as well. So we're busy. I'm busier than Jake, but I'm not going to say that.
I'm not fully retired by any stretch of the imagination, unfortunately.
That's true. We are also joined this time by Ashley, producer extraordinaire. Ashley. Yes. Ashley makes this all happen.
I don't know about extraordinaire, but I'll take it.
There you go. Well, I say extraordinaire.
I appreciate you.
What she's made happen here today at our undisclosed location is nothing short of miraculous.
Oh, absolutely. Seeing the amount of stuff.
Oh yeah, I know. You said you got here earlier today. I was like, why didn't you call me? I really didn't mean it. I just said to be nice. Why didn't you call me to help? I was just trying to be nice. So where did this all start? The Signal 51. You want to tell us, Jake?
Well,
the birthplace.
The birthplace. It's where a lot of good things and I suppose bad things started at the bar. Sitting around telling stories.
Yeah.
And it was usually just you and I and some onlookers on the patio.
Yeah.
Of the illustrious Oscar's Pub.
Oscar's Pub, yeah.
And,
yeah,
there was looking back on it, they would go on for hours. And then we realized we should actually tell these stories.
We should combine our expertise.
Yeah.
retired law enforcement, investigator. I do research. I do storytelling. It's like, let's do this
Yeah.
in Fort Worth, Texas. And so we gained a little bit of an audience, and we're back, and it's just more. The moral of the story ultimately is that no good story begins with a salad.
No.
It's vodka that really tells the tale.
There are many good stories that begin with, you remember that time at Oscar's Pub? Many, many good stories.
So welcome back to our former audience and also to our new audience.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Signal 51. And if you're just tuning in for the first time or returning, you picked a good time to start because we've got an interesting case. But let's first go to the Police Blotter. You're familiar with the Police Blotter.
Oh, yeah.
I've never understood how people would be like, the cops would be at like eating like somewhere, and then they've got this thing in their ear or maybe here or something, I don't know, on their shoulder, and they're getting,
The radio?
they're talking to them. Yeah, they're talking to them.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with that? I mean, you
Just get used to it.
train your ears to
Yeah,
what
you
you're supposed to.
completely get used to it.
I'd be afraid they'd be like, "Hey, Henry, where are you? Henry."
That can happen from time to time.
And
but
I'd
you
be
get
sitting
used
there
to it.
eating my hamburger or my donuts or whatever and just not see anything. All right, let's go to the Police Blotter.
Let's do it.
Let's see, where's our first one? This one's in New Jersey, I believe. Officers responded to a welfare check on an elderly gentleman, Jake, after neighbors, hadn't seen him in a while. Good fences make good neighbors, and good neighbors are essential, especially when they don't see their neighbors in a while. So they call the police for a welfare check. So when the cops get there, the house was empty, no sign of a resident. They took a quick look in the garage and solved the mystery. They found the elderly gentleman fast asleep behind the wheel of his car. Engine sputtering out of the last of a meager tank of gas. Turns out that the man had attempted to take his own life by carbon monoxide. But he underestimated both his fuel level and the clean running efficiency of his brand. It's a new Civic.
Okay.
So, of course, when officers woke him, he was certainly more annoyed than relieved that they found an officer, not St. Peter.
Was he
Had to have been.
like disappointed?
They didn't really say. Anyway, God bless that gentleman.
So are you saying a new car you cannot? I mean, I've
on
never
a Civic, I guess. This was a Civic, Honda Civic.
Just burns clean. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he didn't realize it was electric.
I knew there was a punchline coming.
No, I just made that up. I don't know. So anyway, God bless that gentleman, and we're happy you're still with us. We hope you're still with us.
Yes, indeed.
All kidding aside, if you do find yourself in a situation that you want to do that, please don't.
Make some calls.
Make some calls, please. We beg of you. So we were in North Carolina our first episode. We were in North Carolina, and we're back in North Carolina.
Okay.
Officer takes a call about a high-stakes theft at Target. Target, some people call that.
Yeah.
He arrives to find a teenager trying to escape. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Aboard one of those electric shopping carts, for folks who need help getting around the store. Yeah, he's on one of those. So this cart's just loaded down with stolen merchandise. Like it's a one-man Black Friday or something.
Okay.
And he's topping out at a blistering 5 miles per hour.
Yeah. I actually have a true story about something similar to this. I'll wait till you're finished.
Yeah. I want to hear about this. So he made it about 30 yards before, according to reports, before the battery tapped out. With this world's slowest pursuit officially over, the police officer showed him some grace by said, just push that son of a bitch back where you found it and return that shit.
Yeah. Easy enough.
Easy enough. So anyway, that criminal mastermind is no more, we hope. Hopefully he's repented and sinning no more.
Probably not, but let's hope that is the case.
Is that your experience?
Yeah, well, no.
The recidivists everywhere in this?
Well, yeah, the recidivism is for real. No, but it's funny you brought that up because this only happened a mere 2 months ago at a nearby grocery store in the morning.
Yeah.
I was taking my daughter to school. And like all or many teenage kids, girls, that famous coffee shop is always on the stopping list often, and so
You get like pumpkin spices.
it's one of those. I mean, it's embarrassing to order. I make her order it now because it's just frankly embarrassing for me to do it. But as we're pulling out, we see a guy on one of those electric shopping carts across the street from the grocery store with employees in pursuit
Yeah.
by walking. And of course, we're at the red light waiting to turn.
Were they pointing at him like it's the guy in the cart?
Yes, they're doing all of that. And my daughter's looking, and she'll have some wheels off moments. She is not scared. You've met her.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
I have no idea what she's doing. She rolls down the window. I think maybe she just wants to hear the commotion. No.
She wants to be
She
involved in
heckles
this.
him. She heckles the thief and screams, "Nice
You never told me this story.
I did not. She literally screams, "Nice ride," and just rolls the window up. And I'm like,
Nice ride.
"Nice ride." I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she just laughed.
She has. That's good. She has potential. Where'd she learn that?
I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know. So anyway, let's
Let's get back at it.
get back at it.
Let's get back at it. The murder in Rivercrest, the Koslow case.
Yep.
In episode 1, we police received a 911 call from a neighbor of Jack Koslow who had stumbled over to his house. And that gentleman called 911, reporting what Mr. Koslow was telling him, that there had been an intruder at their house in the middle of the night. His wife had been beaten, so had he. He didn't know what the condition of his wife was, but he knew it was dire. And when police arrived there, they did indeed find his wife, Caren Koslow, deceased, the victim of, I guess you would call it blunt force trauma, beaten repeatedly by a tire iron.
Yep.
And detectives, not immediately, but after a little bit of digging, kind of immediately focused on the husband, Jack Koslow, as is often the case in these types of cases. And the reason they did that is one, the husband's always always a person of interest, at least on the, But as you mentioned, the good detectives and these detectives didn't necessarily do that. These detectives live in a world of gray, and they looked at all the adjacent possibilities Burglary was ruled out because there was no forced entry.
Well, there was forced entry, but the alarm is the...
Right. They knew, whoever this was knew the alarm code.
Yeah.
So there was nothing missing in the case of either burglary or robbery. And so detectives, not gradually, but they kind of focused on Jack Koslow as certainly a person of interest in this case, if not a suspect. And that changed when police received a phone call from kind of a panicked teenager who told them that he had what he believed was evidence that they might be interested in, and that included a bloody tire tool, clothing, and he also said he had knowledge of how those items were disposed of. So 13 days after the murder, detectives moved in. A stakeout ended when officers swarmed a street near West 4th and Dorothy Lane, just blocks from the home of Kristi Koslow, who lived there with her mother.
The Fort Worth police conducted a plainclothes stakeout on a West Side street and used 2 unmarked vehicles, a black Mercedes and a burgundy Chrysler, to box in a white Ford Escort at a stop sign near West 4th and Dorothy Lane. Neighbors watching from their windows initially thought they were witnessing the kidnapping of Kristi Koslow as she was hustled into the Mercedes, which then sped away back east towards downtown. Uniformed officers and additional units quickly arrived, revealing the scene as a coordinated police arrest, not an abduction. Moments later, officers handcuffed Brian Salter nearby. Shortly after, Kristi's mother, Paula Koslow, arrived at the stop sign area, distraught to find her daughter already taken into custody. Police then towed the Ford Escort, noting visible items inside, including clothes hangers, a leather bag, and a long plastic tube as part of the on-scene processing.
And then finally, a 19-year-old friend of Salter, Jeffrey Dillingham, was arrested at a Blockbuster video store in Arlington. He was an assistant general manager there. The arrest naturally rocked Fort Worth's upper crust. The notion that a teenage girl with Rivercrest ties, raised amid privilege and polish, could conspire to kill her own parents was beyond comprehension.
Let's get into a little background of Kristi Koslow, Brian Salter, and Jeffrey Dillingham. It kind of reveals a web of privilege and resentment, I think, would be the best way to describe it. So Kristi Koslow had grown up in privilege. Her father, Jack, was a successful businessman. Her mother, Paula, was described as warm but lenient. After their divorce, Kristi grew angry and defiant, resenting Jack's new wife, Caren. Friends described her as, quote, wild and angry. One former classmate told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram she always said she hated her step. Is charming but reckless. He dropped out of college and drifted between jobs. Dillingham, in contrast, was polite, intelligent, from a Catholic family in Aledo. He was engaged to be married. One source stated, quote, friends and neighbors say Dillingham was the last person they expected to see in handcuffs.
Certainly what I thought when I saw that.
I think one of the
years ago.
With ours, one of the things that was interesting was, our ties to this in the sense that we know people who knew all 3 of these suspects.
Yeah.
Personally, grew up with them.
Yeah. That happens in Fort Worth.
Everybody
in Fort Worth knows somebody who knows somebody. There's a 3 degrees of separation.
Yep. So one of the sources I talked to grew up with Brian Salter since elementary. So again, Salter was Kristi Koslow's fiancé. The best way, and there were several people that described him as this, a nerd. I don't know how that was the common theme, the common term used.
been called that before.
Yeah, but he kind of took on a different tone with it. You know, it wasn't like the kind just buried in a book, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was more, several of them described it more as like kind of the annoying type,
Yeah.
you know. So he
A
did.
jackass is
A
what,
jackass,
a
yeah.
lot of people, because that's how I picture it.
Yeah, and so with that, he fell victim to being bullied back, I suppose.
All right.
We'll get into that in a little bit. Another one describes Salter. He was more or less manipulated by Kristi. He would do anything that she asked him to do. Jeff Dillingham, on the other hand, one of the sources that I talked to, Jeff was a smart kid.
Yeah.
National Honor Society, into cars, got along with people well, not quite as picked on like Salter was. I think where it got interesting, or one interesting point, was the night before the murder of Caren Koslow. One of the sources that I spoke with was with Brian Salter and Kristi Koslow. This person had not told this story in some 35 years, 33 years, whatever we're dealing with, and almost reluctant. But that night before, Brian Salter turns to this source and says, hey, we're about to come across a lot of money. It's also reported that prior to the murder, Koslow and Salter, they'd already picked out cars they wanted to buy when the inheritance hit their account.
Yeah. Like those guys out in California, those brothers, the Menendez brothers.
The Menendez brothers, very similar. Yeah, similar kind of deal.
Spending spree.
Yep. Like I said, that was, having the access to talk to people that knew him, grew up with him, with all three of them. I think that two of them were not as much as of a surprise. Dillingham was certainly the wild card that I think most people were surprised by.
Well, let's take a look at Kristi Koslow. She was said to be angry at her father, jealous of her stepmother, and in love with a boy who needed money. Kristi was seemingly that rich kid who'd gone awry. We've seen these sometimes. Some might call it starting life on third base, but she started life going to an affluent private school in West Fort Worth. She described that school as a fashion show for rich kids. As a ninth grader, she was moved out of that school and went to Arlington Heights. Arlington Heights is a famed institution in Fort Worth. It's the high school that dates to before the turn of the last century, 1896, I believe is the number. The current Georgian Revival School that we know on I-30 in Hewlin, designed by Preston Guerin, was opened in 1937. It of course has that commanding presence on top of hilltop. In fact, it's often been called the hill or the hilltop. I can't remember. I think it's the hilltop. And it overlooks Trinity River Valley to the south and Rivercrest back to the north. It's just really a few hundred yards to the north from Rivercrest. Its proximity to Rivercrest, of course, meant that it served children of families, a lot of children of families from there. And up until the early 1970s, the school was generally affluent and only white. Desegregation orders, of course, changed that, and children from families of the predominantly black Como neighborhood, as well as Butler to the about 5 minutes to the east, began attending school there. Because of its history and because it's been there so long, it has a very rich history, and its alumni include John Denver, Bill Paxton, Delbert McClinton, and dozens of others who went on to leave, that imprint on the city. Another one of their probably notorious graduates he didn't graduate. Alumni is Lee Harvey Oswald, who was there less than a semester, maybe just a month, actually. And he literally left there to join the Marines, I think, at 17 years old. Kristi finally left there and ended up at, I guess it's the now defunct West Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an alternative school for kids, typically with kids, I guess, with behavioral issues. I think it's safe to say.
So Salter, kind of like we mentioned, the nerdy kid who got picked on, but also the kind of guy that would, I guess, more or less just shit talk people. I mean, that was, like I said, that was kind of the basic description.
Probably a way for him to get attention. He's probably one of these attention seekers, and that was the way he was.
Yeah. I think so.
I only play a psychologist on Facebook, but
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you do a very good job at it.
Well, yeah, well, you know.
So Salter grew up going to white settlement schools, a suburb of Fort Worth.
Out west.
But later, junior or senior year, he transfers to an affluent private school in West Fort Worth. You know, these are schools that are, they've got a nice price tag to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, typically affluence prevails there.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Dillingham. So according to news sources, Dillingham is portrayed as a former honor student from white settlement schools, but from Aledo. He's raised in a stable, middle-class family. He graduated from Brewer High School, where he was in the National Honor Society, worked part-time jobs, and was engaged to marry his high school sweetheart. Friends and family described him as polite, hardworking, and deeply religious, attending St. Peter the Apostle Catholic Church for marriage classes with his fiancé. Jack Koslow, 48 at the time of the attack, he was a successful Fort Worth businessman and a former bank executive. Jack worked for Merrill Lynch as an investment banker in the mid-70s. He then worked at Fort Worth National Bank as a commercial banker, rising to the position of executive vice president. In 1993, Jack purchased a supply company where he built a successful masonry supply company and helped grow the United Masonry Contractors Association, serving on the board of directors for over 13 years. He was widely described as disciplined, reserved, and self-made, having worked his way up from modest beginnings into Fort Worth's upper middle class. Colleagues and friends saw him as a savvy investor and a man who valued structure and achievements, traits that reportedly extended into his parenting style. After divorcing his first wife, Paula Koslow, Jack married Caren Courtney and built a new life of wealth and stability in Rivercrest. Their stately brick mansion on Clark Avenue reflected his success and the couple's social aspirations.
Caren Courtney Koslow was 40 at the time of her death. And she came from an old-line Fort Worth oil and banking family, the Courtneys, who had a long-standing influence in the city's business and philanthropic circles. Her uncle was Will Courtney, who was a well-known oil man and civic leader, and her family's wealth originated in the Texas oil and land industries, positioning her among the upper echelon of Fort Worth society. Unlike her husband, Caren was a Fort Worth native who attended Country Day and later graduated from the University of Texas. She went on to earn an MBA from SMU, and as later a banker, she immersed herself in civic life. She too is a philanthropist and arts patron, active in the Jewel Charity Ball, Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra, and various junior league and charity events, and was remembered by friends as creative, stylish, and generous, with a particular passion for floral design and entertainment.
It's here where the story starts to come out, what we can call the confessions. This is where we learn the details, the why, if you will, what the root cause of this was.
We'll first examine the interrogation of Jeffrey Dillingham. In his statements to police, Dillingham said he hesitated behind the Koslow home's wooden fence, asking Salter if he was sure that this was what they wanted to do.
Hesitation, perhaps.
Cold feet.
Yeah.
Dillingham told detectives in his interview, according to reports, that he stood there for a full minute, breathing hard before he followed Salter inside. Once he entered the Koslow home, the violent killing and attack unfolded. Dillingham told detectives that he struck Jack and Caren Koslow multiple times with a crowbar.
So after the 2 weeks later, about 6 hours, a 6-hour interrogation, ultimately he said he did it. We went in.
2 weeks after the murder.
2 weeks after
Yeah.
the murder.
Yeah.
He said, I did it. We went in. She wanted them dead. She being Kristi Koslow. Days later, Dillingham handed the murder weapon to a friend, and that's where
That was the phone call.
The phone call.
Yeah.
That's where it all began. In Salter's confession, he stated, initially it was what he described as a joking conversation. And this had gone on for the idea of the murder of Jack and Caren Koslow, with Kristi Koslow being the mastermind. This had been something that had been talked about for a while, a year at least. She had actually tried to recruit a couple other people prior to this plan. So Salter said, at first, hey, I thought it was just, a joke. Kristi stood to gain a lot of money from them being dead. She told Salter to talk to Dillingham about murdering them. Salter continued, as he told the detective, she just said to do it quietly. At around 4:30 that morning, the morning of the murder, Salter called Koslow and said he and Dillingham went to the house. When Koslow asked if they were dead, Salter replied, quote, I don't know.
As it regards the confession of the mastermind of this scheme, Kristi Koslow, the day of her arrest, she told detectives originally she and Brian Salter discussed robbing her father as a joke a year prior.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding around. It was just a joke, she reportedly said. I didn't think people would take me seriously. A month or two before the murder, the conversations turned serious. Kristi eventually provided Salter with a hand-drawn floor plan of the house and the alarm code. The floor plan included where certain valuables were located in the home. However, as the interrogation continued, reports said it was not the contents of the house that Kristi Koslow was interested in. She wanted her father and stepmother dead. She reportedly said, I just told him it would be easier if they were dead. Easier for me and my mom, both because they had dealt with so much misery for the last 9 or 10 years. Reportedly continued by saying, I just started thinking about everything that he's done to us, and I hated him for it.
So one thing that, we just talked about when Salter, when Kristi asked if they were dead, and he replied, I don't know. It didn't go quite as planned.
Does it ever?
No, I don't think so. Well, I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't know. This one did not. Salter and Dillingham actually were armed. Perhaps they didn't have the ability to just walk in there and shoot them.
So they're armed with pistols, with guns.
Yeah.
Okay. So they go in there with crowbars and
Yeah.
pistols.
I don't remember if it was Dillingham or Salter. A .32 caliber pistol was discharged. So the reason they didn't know if they were both dead was simply because when that gun went off, it freaked them out, and they left. Stole a couple things because Kristi gave them a map and said, hey, there's money here. This is where he keeps valuable things in the house. All that was indicated on the map that she provided.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he didn't know was because they left sooner than planned once that firearm was discharged. So that's why I don't think he knew what the outcome was at least that night.
Was there any speculation that firearm might have been discharged by someone in the house, like Jack, or did police do they have any idea?
Well,
did Jack
no,
own a weapon like that, or?
Yeah, well, he had a shotgun. There was unfired shotgun shells on the floor. But no, there wasn't. I don't know. There wasn't anything initially it was odd because there were, the fired .32 caliber, the shotgun shells. So there were some oddities during the initial search.
So the shotgun shells, the unfired shotgun, would indicate that maybe Jack was trying
to load.
to load.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, one of the two discharged that .32 caliber pistol, which caused them to panic and leave. So when you start looking, when Kristi asked, they simply didn't know. They didn't know if both of them were dead. The trials in these were, this was a different time, right? Or kind of a weird time. I mean, we're going to the cadet murder era.
Yeah.
We've got the female involved in a murder, a mastermind of a murder, which is rare to this day. So trial one was 1993, not for Kristi, but for Jeffrey Dillingham. Prosecutors portrayed him as greedy and calculating. Ultimately, he was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death. And it was a pretty quick sentence, just a few hours. Brian Salter takes a plea deal, life in prison in exchange for testifying against Kristi Koslow. Ultimately, Salter really kind of gave the blueprint for how this was to go down. What was Kristi's plan? Right, so Salter was able to provide them with that, and that left one defendant, the teenager accused of orchestrating her stepmother's murder. At the age of 19, Kristi Koslow now faced the death penalty.
So the next time on Murder in Rivercrest, Kristi Koslow faces her father in court. Join us for episode 3.
This is a Stolen Water Media production.